Oh, are you the IT guy now? Yeah.
I have this with me in the room. I just need some audio testing. So here, this audio, the computer's detecting it, but the screen isn't. So we can use that one if we want to. Okay.
And then do I just need to copy the link from the top to share it?
She's already gone.
Okay,
Sorry.
no problem.
Okay. For the purpose of recording, always make sure people say their name and then say how they know Justin before they start doing their talking.
Okay.
Because that is going to make editing much easier.
Okay.
Okay?
Mike, will you do me a favor? I can find my live stream. Okay, yeah. I don't know if I just need to share this link or I don't
What is
see
it
a share
called?
button.
Do you have a name for it or a file name?
Yes, well, it's on YouTube. It's Justin Horn Memorial, or yeah, Celebration of Life.
Let's see. Let me put it in live.
Here, try this. YouTube.com/user/Florenzilla2.
I don't know if I might not be doing it right now.
Yep, I think it's working.
Got it? In the way.
But yeah, so it's youtube.com/user/Florenzilla2.
So I'm already on the YouTube app.
Here, maybe scoot over a couple feet.
Florenzilla 2?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
All right, it's working. No, it's this one.
No, it's not.
Sweet.
Yep, it's working. I just saw my hit.
Can you post that link on Justin's Facebook?
Yeah. I'm gonna share it. It should be good enough.
Christian, how are you? Good. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Well, the technical difficulties worked out, I think. That is a diamond hands Justin was using stock. That's where yeah, this is one of the symbols. Thank you very much. Asking for help on Reddit about
Let me get under here and focus some more.
Hello, everybody. My name is Emery Boyle Scott, and I am one of Justin's sister-in-laws. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for coming. We really appreciate seeing so many people from all parts of Justin's life here to celebrate for him and in the wake of this horrible loss. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. I just wanted to take a moment to point out a few things around the room, and then give anybody who'd like to share a memory of Justin up with the group the opportunity to speak. So we have a sign-in, a guest book. Please, if you are able to, before you leave, please leave your thoughts and messages for the family in the guest book. We also have a page if you have a particular memory. So we very much would like to share with Maya, especially as she grows up, all the wonderful things that Justin was to her and to our world. So if you would please share some of your thoughts of Justin on the printed sheet. We also have a donation for the GoFundMe for Maya's education. There's a link if you would like to donate electronically, or a lockbox if you have anything for cash. We'll be having some food shortly, probably at about 6 o'clock. We'll be having some food come through. So if you'd like to stay around for that, we'd be happy to share and break bread together. But I would like to open the stage now to anybody who would be willing to share a memory or thought in honor of Justin.
All right, normally Justin would go first.
He would get up and he would share something, and it would be so funny, and we would all laugh. So, anybody gonna take Justin's spot? Thank you.
Justin would be like, "Mike, get up there."
I know it's a bit of a long walk.
I'm gonna kick this off, okay, guys? Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Barron. I grew up with Justin. Justin was my best friend.
Mike already posted on the...
Just cut me some slack today, guys. Usually I'm a very good public speaker, and I usually prepare myself. But this has been an exceptionally difficult one. But in his honor, I want to get up and get it started today. And I'll be honest, like, I've been preparing for a month, trying to think about sort of like where to begin with Justin. But one thing came to my mind right off the top, and that was, I had a conversation recently with Justin a few months ago. We were talking about the idea of archetypes, and we were talking about what each other's archetypes were. And I always said Justin's archetype was Gandalf the Grey from Lord of the Rings. And I was like, "That's yours. I know who you are, dude. You're Gandalf the Grey," which I thought was exceptionally funny, because when he went to get his PhD in New Zealand, I was like, "Dude, you're like actually going to the University of Middle Earth to get your PhD." Well, of course you are, you know. But I also like to think of him in that way as well, because I think I think everybody in this room knows, Justin was a magical guy. You know, he was just magic. And whenever you were around him, it was like you were entering into the Justin Horn experience. And no matter where you were or what you were doing, he would always make it, he would always optimize the fun and make it as fun and magical as possible. And I'm very scattered right now. I might come up again later, but I just want to say that he is absolutely a brother to me, and I am so grateful, so profoundly grateful that I got to share that friendship and that I had a friendship like that with Justin. I might come back up again later. I'm a little scattered right now, but I love him so much, and I just want to say to Miriam and Maya in particular that your husband and Maya, your father, was the most magical man I have ever known, and the most generous, positive person I've ever known. I think all of you who knew Justin know that he had this like voracious intellect, voracious mind. Like he would just, his mind was just this incredible miracle, and it would just go and go and go. And that alone, right there, that alone is remarkable. You know, it's like remarkable when you meet someone with an intellect like that. But what makes Justin truly magical is the generosity with which he used that mind. It wasn't just his mind that he kept to himself. That mind was for everyone. And you were with him, he shared it with you. And I can pinpoint the one moment I can say in particular. I met Justin in when I was 11 years old. We were in Boy Scouts together. Technically, I met him when I was 2 at Emily's Kinderhaven, but we kind of went our separate ways for a while. And we reconvened when we were 11 years old at the Boy Scouts of America and at the Presbyterian Church. I was from the Catholic Cub Scout troop that came home from the Catholic side. We were walking in, sizing each other up. Those are the Presbyterian boys over there, for the Catholic boys. And, I just want to share a memory because I think we all remember Justin as, you know, he's charismatic, he's larger than life. And one thing that will always stick out when I first met Justin is that when I first met him, he was a kid and he was very, very shy and very sensitive and very quiet and you're not going to believe this, very, very serious. Like he was like very serious. And I remember that. And he kind of like, but we went on camping trips together. We carried Justin once down a hill because his feet got wet. And we had to carry him down a hill with Rob DeVoe and Jake Reisenauer, put him in front of a fire and thaw at his feet. And we would spend the most wonderful nights on these camping trips in McCall, Idaho, you know, in 6 feet of snow, miserable, eating trail mix in our tents and just having the absolute best time of our lives, making each other laugh, talking about girls, talking about movies, talking about games, getting to know each other. And really what started to happen was we just formed like a real brotherhood. But the moment, if I had to pick one moment, and these things aren't moments, they're processes, their lives live together, they're the fabric that you weave yourself with. You know, when can you pinpoint a friendship forming? But there was one special moment. I was sitting in, I believe it was 9th grade science class, Mr. Cash's class, and there was a poster on the wall of the solar system. And Justin and I were sitting on this, like, you know, the science class lab stools, and we were talking, and the two of us, and I said, hey, what's beyond the solar system? And he's like, well, it's the galaxy, dude. And I was like, that's right, it's a galaxy, and there's lots of solar systems in a galaxy. He's like, yeah, dude. And then I said, what's outside the galaxy? And he said, the universe. And I said, and there are lots of galaxies in the universe. Yeah, dude. And he's like, you know what's crazy about the universe? It's huge, dude. It's infinitely huge, dude. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, it's infinite, dude. And I was like, yeah, that's like as big as it gets. He goes, dude, infinite is bigger than big. It's not even big because big implies that there's like an end to it. He's like, I go, so what? Like, it just goes on forever. He's like, you know, he's like doing me a favor. Kind of. And I said, okay, well, oh my God. And it was just this cosmic moment. And we were just like staring at each other. And I said, well, Justin, if that's the case, if there's an infinite amount of space, doesn't that mean that there's got to be like life on other planets, right? He's like, dude, if there's not life out there somewhere else, it just doesn't even make sense. There's definitely like, man, so I was like, wow, like, you're right. Like, oh my God, there's like aliens. There could be alien life. And then I said, you know, it's interesting. If there's an infinite amount of space, there's an infinite amount of possibilities, right? I mean, anything. If there's anything's possible. And I think, you know, this is 8th grade. I know I'm with like professional philosophers and stuff in here, so just cut me some slack. I was 8th grade. But he looked at me and he was like, yeah, kind of, dude. And I love that story because that's what Justin, beyond his brotherhood that I had with him, and he lived with our family. My mother wanted to also say that she loved having Justin Horn at our table. You know, he would often come over to our house for dinner. But what Justin Horn taught me was possibilities, the possibilities of life. He always showed me the possibilities. He always showed me it's possible. You can do it in his way. Like, that's Mike Barron saying, you can do it, man. That's Mike Barron. Justin Horn's way of saying you can do it was like, I'd be like, Justin, come on, man, that's crazy. We can't do that. We're going to get in trouble. He's like, yes, we are going to do it, dude. And not only are we going to do it, it's going to be awesome. And then he would like just point by point break down how we do it. And then I would always just be like, oh my God, we're doing it. And it's awesome. And so, yes, like that's Justin. He would always make it happen. He always shared it. He always used that powerful mind of his to enhance the world of everyone around him. And I know we're at a memorial and we always want to say the best things about people and we always want to remember those things. We always say the good things. But I can truly tell you, and I was thinking about this the other day, and I can say this about Justin, I never, ever, and this is not to be cheesy at a funeral or to say the best things and remember the best. This is true. I was reflecting on this. I never, and this just occurred to me, I never, ever in my life heard him say a bad thing about anyone, ever. A negative criticism of somebody, a disagreement, if he didn't like something, this or that. I've been racking my brain for the last 2 weeks. I cannot think of one time I heard him say something negative about it. It was always positive motion forward. If I disagree with that, then I'm just going to go and do this. I'm going to create this reality instead. And I think it's profound that I reflect upon that. And the other thing that I would say about him, and maybe I'm sure there are people here who might know different, closer family members or something, but I was reflecting on this as well. I never heard him complain. I never heard Justin Horn ever once complain to me about anything, ever. Not being hungry, not even as mundane, like, we're hungry, let's go eat some, I'm hungry, dude. He just go make a sandwich and eat it. He wouldn't complain. He wouldn't, he would never complain. He would always just take action, do something, solve the problem, make it happen. We'll go get something to eat. And sometimes I wish he maybe would have complained a little more to me, maybe, but I'm going to carry that. And anyway, I've been rambling on. I'm the first one. It's always the hardest one to go first. And I'm sorry, guys, if I wasn't as articulate as I normally am, but this has been one of the most painful things in my life. But again, I just want to end by saying thank you all for coming out here and celebrating my beautiful wizard friend. And I want to leave us, because Justin is the guy that introduced me to Lord of the Rings. It was in right before they were going to come out with the movies. He's like, dude, have you read Lord of the Rings? And I was like, we were talking about it. It was more like talking about Lord of the Rings. And I was like, oh, dude, I've never actually read that. He's like, what? You've never read Lord of the Rings, dude? And I was like, no, I've always wanted to. He's like, dude, you need to do this immediately. You need to go read Lord of the Rings right now. And he's like, dude, here's the thing. This is classic Justin. It's always better. He's like, not only do you need to go and read that now, you definitely needed to do it now. You know why? And I was like, why? Because they're coming out with the movies, dude. And it's going to be awesome. So I went and read Lord of the Rings. And I want to end today with an image from Lord of the Rings, from my Gandalf, from Justin Horn. And it's something I thought about. In Lord of the Rings, I think in the Two Towers at the end, Gandalf is on the bridge and he's fighting the Balrog. And he says, you guys probably all remember if you've read the books or not, but it's "You shall not pass," you know. And he falls into the dark pit with the Balrog. And it's the most, and I remember Justin and I talking about this moment in the books, how it was the most devastating. Like, you feel grief at this moment in the story because he symbolizes like hope, you know. Gandalf takes care of everybody. Gandalf is this powerful wizard that takes care of everyone around him, the generous wizard that takes care of everyone. He's the one that's going to guide them to Mordor, to help them, and he gets killed halfway through. But I want to remember what happens with Gandalf, because Justin told me this. Don't forget, Gandalf comes back as the White Wizard in Return of the King. And the white symbolizes the purity of the spirit. He comes back as the spirit. It's symbolically like his spirit comes back and saves them in the end. At the end, he's on the hill, the shining light, and they defeat the orcs. And I know that Justin is now the White Wizard for me. Justin has fallen into the pit with the Balrog, and he is now my White Wizard. It's the old Star Wars line, if you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. And it's because his spirit will live on with us. He is the White Wizard for me. Justin, I know you're here, and I know when it gets funky in here, you're going to be on the dance floor with us, and you're going to be around us. I love you, brother. You are my brother, and I will love you forever, and I cannot wait to see you again. And I love all of you, and thank you for coming. And I'm going to get off this stage now before I cry. But I'm so grateful for your friendship, and thank you all for letting me go first. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for sharing, Mike. I know it's very hard to go first, but it's also very hard to go second after you hear something as moving and as complete as a story from a lifelong friend. That brings me to remember that there is an opportunity, if you'd rather not share on stage, there's an opportunity for you to record your memories, to share with Justin's family, especially Maya. I know I'm going to probably bring her up a couple times here, but especially with those who aren't going to get to know him as well. So we do have in the back, I'm pointing through a wall here. In the back, there's a recording area. If you would be so kind as to share a memory for us all to reflect on later. But if anybody else would like to share.
First of all, thank you all for being here. I think one of the measures of a life lived is to see the people that show up when that life is celebrated. And it is no surprise to me, having known Justin as long as Michael has, because we met him at the same time, that the diverse group of people here gathered to celebrate him. It's heartening to see, and it's a wonderful thing. Michael is family to me, and I love him dearly, and that's a tough act to follow. It always has been. So I've been thinking since Justin's passing about how to, Trisha honored me, gave me one of the great honors of my life when she asked me if I would come speak. And I was trying to figure out what to talk about with someone as dynamic as Justin. And there are two things that struck me that I thought about. And number one was his lust for life. Justin, he lusted after life. He lived life, and it sounds negative, but it's not. He lived a life that did not have the typical boundaries that people have in life, because he was so curious about the reality of this existence and the people and the experiences and the knowledge that could be gained, that he did not have the self-limiting, self-defeating beliefs that I certainly have, and that I think most people carry with them. He just did not have them, or if he did, I never saw it. And it was amazing to witness someone who grasped and reached, 3:30 in the morning, lots and lots of times, too much to drink, too much partying. And Justin and I would be talking, and he was still going toward it. And it reflected in his education, in his pursuit of philosophy, in his pursuit of music, his pursuit of art, his curiosity about politics and societies, and late in his life, GameStop stock and how that affected the economy. And that kind of attitude shows a courage that I have not witnessed in anyone that I have ever met. It's a courage to live your life on your terms, to pursue it without quarter, to grab every ounce of experience that your finite amount of time has in this life. And that was incredible to witness, and encouraging, and frankly intimidating. It was intimidating to me. And the second thing I will say is Justin's intellect. I frankly believe that Justin Horn was the most intelligent human being that I've ever had the privilege to meet. That is over probably thousands of hours of talking about a variety of subjects over the course of 30 some years. His intellect was something literally to behold. It was remarkable. And it, much like his lust for life, it was not constrained to any one specific area. It expanded out. He loved philosophy and he loved music. I think those were two of his passions, but you can't contain something like that. And personally for me, I practice law for a living. I know for a fact that if I did not have the friendship I have with Justin, I don't think I would have made it. I don't think I would have ever gone into it, because whatever we were talking about, if you could not articulate your point and back it up with evidence in a logical, flowing, seriously, it didn't matter what the subject was. You had to stake your claim. You had to argue your point, and you had to do it in such a way in the face of that overwhelming intellect. It made you better. It simply made me better. It made me a better thinker. It made me a better student. It made me a better person. But the most remarkable thing about Justin's intellect, and Michael touched on it as well, I have seen people with not a small fraction of Justin's intellect belittle, marginalize, and undermine people who ask questions or dare to be a part of the conversation. Yet the most intelligent human being that I've ever met in my life never once, not ever, ever once made anyone around him feel that they were less than, that they were not as smart, or that they couldn't participate in the conversation. His graciousness with his enormous gift of that brain of his was more remarkable than the gift itself. Justin's loss is incalculable. It is something that I think losses like that, you don't process, you process them, but there is no closure. You don't move past something like that. For me personally, Justin gave me one of the largest honors of my life when he asked me to officiate him and Miriam's wedding. And when I asked him why, and this is another thing as well, Justin and I's worldview, our metaphysical religious worldview, was about as far as apart as you can possibly get. And yet with the same graciousness that he treated everyone around him, all the hours that we discussed it, that graciousness was always present. And he asked me to officiate their wedding. it is one of the honors of my lifetime, just as being able to be here today and to speak about him is also one of the honors of my life. Miriam and Maya, your husband and father made a tremendous impact on me. It made a tremendous impact on everyone in this room. Our lives are brighter and richer and never the same, except for our connection with Justin Horn. And it is wonderful to see you all. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for the privilege of sharing in a remarkable life. I think Justin is almost the archetype of the phrase that it's not the time that you spend, but how you utilize that time. Because I've never met anyone who garnered and squeezed that much experience out of the time he had. And it's an honor to be here. And I thank you very much.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Christian Horn, and you could say Justin was like a brother to me. I know a lot of people are probably going to be sharing some stories from when Justin was an adult, so I thought I would share some from when we were little. In some ways, it's sort of a surprise we lived to adulthood because of the shenanigans we would get into. So I thought I'd share some of our biggest shocking moments of how did our parents let us live from when we were growing up. There was all sorts. We grew up out in the country, and so there was big fields all around us. We had a pond. We would often spend time catching snakes and frogs and bringing them home, putting them in the sink for our parents to find. We had a game where we would like to go see who could dig the biggest hole in the backyard. We would also, after our parents got home from a fresh Costco run, one time we decided to take individual cans of pop, shake them up as much as you possibly could, throw them off the porch, and watch the explosion when they hit the driveway. We quickly went through a full case before our parents discovered, and yes, they were not happy. I think my favorite one, we were probably maybe 4 or 6, somewhere in that range, and we were huge fans of He-Man. Well, one day we were out playing in the garage, and we were smashing some cans we found with a croquet mallet. And we realized that when you smash a can, due to the angle of the mallet hitting the can on the ground, you wouldn't get a flat crush. It was just not satisfying, and sometimes it would shoot out towards you between your legs. So we quickly realized, okay, we've got to get this up to chest level. What can we find around here that we can put these cans on? The back of the Audi. So we started crushing the cans, and eventually we missed and realized that the car made a really cool noise when you hit it with a croquet mallet. It almost like a gonging noise. So we would heft the mallets over our head and yell, "I have the power!" Crush, gong. So we quickly gave up on the cans. Fun game now, making the gong noise and yelling, "I have the power." We probably destroyed every square inch of sheet metal on that car, including the roof. We had little footprints on glass. Now, we knew not to break the windows because we didn't want to get in trouble. But yeah, I think that was the first time my mom had to call her friend to talk her down from killing us. And her friend, being very insightful, said, "Well, you know, there's a very important lesson here. At least they didn't hurt each other with the mallets." And, you know, I think there's an idiom that goes, with mallets towards none. So yeah, those were just a taste of the shenanigans we got into when we were little. Now I would like to attempt to read something a little more serious, so I'll do my best. You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy so they will understand that energy has not died. You want the physicist to remind your sobbing mother about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy gets created in the universe and none is destroyed. You want your mother to know that all your energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of every particle that was her beloved child remains with her in this world. You want the physicist to tell your weeping daughter that amid energies of the cosmos, you gave as good as you got. And at one point, you'd hope that the physicist would step down from the pulpit and walk to your broken-hearted spouse there in the pew and tell her that all the photons that ever bounced off your face, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by your smile, by the touch of your hair, hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off like children, their ways forever changed by you. And as your widow rocks in the arms of a loving family, may the physicist let her know that all the photons that bounced from you were gathered in the particle detectors that are her eyes, that those photons created within her constellations of electromagnetically charged neurons whose energy will go on forever. And the physicist will remind everyone how much of all our energy is given off as heat. There may be even a few fanning themselves with their programs as he says it. And he will tell them that the warmth that flowed through you in life is still here, still part of all that we are, even as we who mourn continue the heat of our own lives. And you want the physicist to explain to those who loved you that they need not have faith. Let them know that they can measure, that scientists have measured precisely the conservation of energy and found it accurate, verifiable, and consistent across space and time. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound and that they'll be comforted to know that energy is still around. According to the law of conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly. I miss you, buddy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael O'Rourke. I was one of Justin's teachers at the University of Idaho. I wanted to just share a few stories about Justin the philosopher, Justin the intellectual. I arrived in Moscow in 1996, my first faculty job, and I met Justin in 1998. I think he was still a senior at Moscow High. He visited one of my classes. I was teaching a philosophy of language class in the spring, and one of my students was Lee Pike, an amazing student. And he had with him a friend of his, and he asked me if it'd be okay if his friend sat in on the class, and said, sure, more the merrier, right? And so Lee and Justin kind of move into the middle of the room, and 20 minutes into the lecture that day, up pops Justin's hand. I'm thinking, does he need to go to the bathroom? Like, why is? So I call on him, and he proceeds to ask this really trenchant, difficult question about material he had not read. So he was basically just working with the 20 minutes of lecture that he heard me give about John Searle, and he just asked this really insightful question. Honestly, it just kind of rocked me back a little bit on my heels. I was not prepared to have to deal with that kind of question at that moment in my lecture. But I managed to survive it, and after class, before I gathered my things, I went out and I made sure to touch base with him and encourage him to continue studying philosophy, because he's clearly talented at this. And wherever he goes for college, he should definitely look to take a philosophy class. Fortunately for me, he came to the University of Idaho, and so I had a number of opportunities to work with him. I counted it up. I think it's at least 11 classes from the time he matriculated at U of I till the time he left for Auckland that Justin was a part of. And there are too many Justin stories from these classes to recount. Maybe a couple of moments that stand out. Well, there was a period in the early aughts when, like 2002, 3, 4, thereabouts, where he was really into making movies. And so I had, in my advanced classes, I would have students give presentations on the material. And most people gave 15-minute stand-up presentations. Justin would spend a month, at least, ahead of his presentation making a movie, and would come to class. We'd have to get a television and a deck, and then he'd stick this I guess it was 8-track tape, maybe, I don't know, VHS, something, and then there would be Justin's presentation. It would be this movie made with the other members of the class as the cast. They're very memorable movies. One in particular that I'm not going to talk about. Maybe these days it's not probably appropriate to talk about it, but I'm guessing that for the students in these classes, that the one thing they remember are Justin's movies. I'm not sure they remember anything I ever said, but I'm sure they remember Justin's movies. A second story, not from when he was in a class, but he worked at like the University Inn or the University of Idaho Commons, and we would run international conferences every year. And more than a few times during these conferences, he would take a break, and he would come to a lecture in his uniform, sit in the back of the room during his break, listen to the talk, and like ask, as was his wont, this really difficult question of the lecturer, right? And I mean, there's this university employee in the back there. I have more than at least a couple of people afterward that would ask me, it's like, who the hell are they hiring at this place? Right? Justin did his master's thesis with me. He wrote a really wonderful essay on that connected two of his passions, language and music. And it was that, I think, that kind of positioned him to want to study philosophy of music at a PhD level. Yeah, Justin was my best student. He was also, in full disclosure, at times my worst student. But he was definitely my best student, and I learned so much from him over the years. If you're lucky, if you're someone like me, if you're in my business, to have a chance to work with someone as creative, as insightful, as sharp as Justin Horn. And I just count my lucky stars that I had a chance to spend time with him and learn from him. I'm going to end with a couple of philosophical thoughts. I hope you don't mind. I have a good friend, also a philosopher, who likes to say that the measure of a good life is the number of good stories you have to tell. By that measure, Justin had a wonderful life. There's no question. A second measure, one that resonates with me as well, is do you leave the world a better place than you found it? And I don't think there's any question that Justin Horn left the world a better place than he found it. The fact that you're here is a compelling sign of that fact. Thank you.
I really appreciate hearing all of the stories. So I feel like I hardly knew Justin, being one of his sister-in-laws, and I think that could be a very fair assessment. We're going to have a little bit more time here to share some of our stories about Justin, and I certainly want to welcome anyone up. But we mentioned that Justin likes to make movies. One of the things he did do in his life was write and many more parts, but he created Food Court the Musical. And so we're going to play that for you all today while we get a chance to eat food. So we'll have another opportunity to share some thoughts and memories after that, and then have a band on to play. So if anyone else has anything they'd like to say, I would be happy to relinquish the mic.
Okay, well, she's going to show Food Court the Musical. I should probably say something beforehand. I got to justify it. Thank you all for being here. Just to see so many people that loves Justin, to be here to celebrate his life is simply amazing. A few of us are also looking forward to, in a couple of weeks, in Moscow, Idaho, where we're also going to get together with a bunch of our friends and relive some of our glory days from Moscow, Idaho. My name is Christian. I was a student at the University of Idaho, and I met Justin as a freshman. And Justin was 5 years older than me when we met. But at the same time, he had basically gone back to almost being a freshman as far as his college career goes. And so we were kind of starting from the same level. But you know, as 5 years older than me, I was an 18-year-old kid coming from Alaska. His wit and his charm was so infectious. And for anybody that met him and knows him, they know that like his ability to bring you into whatever he was doing, to introduce you to people he knew, to take you on adventures, and was just amazing. It was just such an amazing experience. And so from a freshman perspective, I'm like, man, this older guy is so cool, and he's so funny, and he's so silly and goofy. He has way too much confidence. I don't know where he gets all that confidence from. He's way too charming. It kind of makes you want to throw up. He's so charming, you know what I mean? Like, we very quickly became friends. We spent many late nights, smoke sessions, and just talking about movies and TV shows and games and music. The music is the thing that will forever stick with me. He was not a music major like most of his friends. All of his friends, me, all the guys that we hung out with, we were this kind of group of hippies that we called ourselves agents of the subculture. We were just constantly just trying to figure out how can we play in another band, or how can we do this other thing or this other show, or what songs do we want to listen to, and we just shared so much music together. For not being a music major at the University of Idaho, it blew my mind, because I was like, he's the most gifted musician and musical mind of anybody that any of us knew. And his ability to just come up with melodies and chord progressions and jingles for local businesses. He wrote a jingle for there was a late night breakfast donut shop that he worked at, and we used to leave the bars at 2 a.m. and we'd go to him at Daylight Donuts, and we'd sneak in the back and we'd make breakfast and donuts with him, do his job for him, while he would just hang out, and we'd all tell funny stories, and we'd just hang out all night long. And he like wrote these guys a jingle that was like, we recorded it in Packy's house, in his grandmother's house, in the living room, with a drum set up and microphones and a friend on saxophone, and just figuring out how all the parts go. And just the adventures that we would get into were the best. It made my college experience to get to have somebody like that he was a Moscow local, so he knew everybody. He introduced me to all these amazing people that I would still consider my friends. I have friends that I've met through Justin that will forever be brothers. I have new brothers that I met through Justin that will.
They feel that way too, Christian.
Justin was such an amazing man, and it's hard because for those of you that know him really intimately, there was so many things about him that drove you crazy. I wish I could stand up here and just say all the good things, but man, he was the worst roommate. I've been bragging about this for years, that nobody besides his mother or his wife has lived with him as long as I have. Because nobody could. He went through roommates faster than he went through girlfriends most of the time. So pretty fast. He was at times such a horrible roommate in just the way that he was dirty and late and would never pay his bills. We had to remind him at the beginning of the month that bills had to be paid. He'd be like, well, why didn't you tell me? I was like, bro, it happens every month. It's always the same. It's always going to come back around. And there was even a time where we had a roommate that was like, you guys, we got to sit down. We have to have a serious talk. Justin's got to go. And me and another roommate, we were like, yeah, we hear what you're saying, bro, but the thing is, Justin's a lot of fun, and you're not, so you gotta go. And that's the thing about Justin, is it didn't matter how late he was, or he would be late to rehearsals and then blame us for not giving him a ride. It didn't matter how often he did that, or how unclean his room was, or how he never picked up after himself, or none of that mattered, because he was so much fun. He constantly would come up with schemes or things for us to do. And I think Mike touched on this, that we would be like, there's no way we're doing that. There's no way that we're doing that. And he's like, not only are we doing that, it's going to be awesome. And then it would be 4 hours later, and here we are dressed up in robot costumes, barging into the bars at midnight, when we're like, we never thought we'd actually, it was just crazy, the things he would come up with for us to do. And so there was a year where he said he had been working in the food court at the university, and just one random day, he's like, guys, I'm going to write a musical. And we're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're not going to write a musical. He's like, yes, I am. Guess what it's going to be called? Food Court the Musical. We're like, don't do that. Please don't do that. If you do that, then we all have to be in it. And so for about 6 months, he talked about it, and we kept giving him shit like we always do. We're like, you're never going to do it. You're never going to finish it. You're never going to do it. He's like, oh, yes, I am. He's grew out his beard. This is the first time I'd seen him grow out his beard. Before it was all gray. Grew out his beard, and he did that so he could hide the fact that he was growing a handlebar mustache. And so then Halloween rolls around. It's been about 6 months since he's conceptualized this idea. Halloween rolls around. He's like, well, I got to get this musical out. So if I shave my beard and have the handlebar mustache right now, it'll force me to finish the musical. He didn't finish the musical for 6 months. So he rocked a handlebar mustache, a disgusting handlebar mustache, for 6 months. I watched him open the doors for girls who would be like, ew, oh my God. Like, it was the grossest mustache. He kept it. He kept it for 6 months until April rolled around, and we finally put that show together. And Justin and I, we shared all these similar passions for things. We had a similar background in theater, that we always were amazed at the connections me and him made. And it was why we became such good friends and why we were so close. We just had so many connections in life, and theater was one of them. And he knew that I had this kind of secret, as a music major, as a trumpet major in a school with a bunch of jazz musicians. I couldn't tell anybody. I was like really into musical theater. It was like kind of a don't tell anybody. But he knew, and him and I shared this kind of similar passion for it. We always knew that, like, you know, there was something about doing things really cheesy. We're like, the cheesier the better. We used to always say that, like, the cheesier the better. But if you make it super cheesy, man, they'll just be into it. Like, if you shy away from it, then they're like, no, I don't know. But if you lean hard into it, And so when we started putting this show together, it was like, he's like, here's the deal. You're gonna be the good guy. I'm gonna be the bad guy, and we're gonna get all our friends to be all the chorus members. And so we got this ragtag group of people that had never thought they would ever be in a musical. All music majors that were like really serious music majors, drummers and trombonists and like hardcore jazz musicians that were like, all right, you guys are doing this? All right, I'll be in a musical. Let's see what's up. I'll be in a musical. And so we have this chorus member, and there's a musical theater like school at the school. None of the music theater majors were in this. None of them were involved. And so it was all these like guys, and Justin had this ability of drawing in people. He drew in people that were non-music majors, and he was like, no, I'll teach you everything you need to know in this musical to be a part of it. And so we would do these for a month. We did all these extra rehearsals outside of real rehearsals for class that we had to do. We had to constantly we had shows on the weekends and rehearsals every day, and we were finding time to like get together with this group. We crammed 20 people into a tiny little practice room, bang out all the parts, teach everybody all the parts, and then we, in 1 month, threw together this musical that turned out to be the best thing that any of our friends did all throughout college. In fact, every friend that I've connected with over the last 6 weeks has told me that that was the best thing they did in college. That Food Court the Musical, the stupid musical that we did, and we did it 4 years in a row. The university kept asking us to bring it back, and we're like, are you serious? You want us to do that again? All right, we'll do it again. And there was always new rules though. The second year they were like, no more glitter.
Yeah,
no more confetti. No more confetti. We don't want to clean that up. And so we always had to up the stakes every year too. And, Justin just even though he could be such a pain in the ass as a roommate, he was the best friend that any of us could ever have. There's so many guys now that I have connections with and friends that I have because of him that I stayed friends with after college and have met since then. And these experiences that we had together through Justin that connect us are so strong because of his ability to draw people together and draw us into doing these crazy schemes and coming up with these crazy plans. And I've taken so much of that with me now as I've, not been around those people, and I, have my own life away from these crazy things that we used to do. But now I'm lucky that I get to I teach high school kids, or I coach high school kids on some of this same stuff. And it's like, I've always looked at it as like, okay, this is what Justin kind of prepared me for. It's like, how do I get these kids to do the stupidest stuff on stage and feel way too confident about what they're doing? And it's like, I've always, for the last 6 years, just channeled kind of my inner Justin Horn. Like, how can I make sure that like, I leave a positive impact, and I leave this feeling of like, okay, this guy's crazy, but I want to follow him and do what he says. And it's Justin that kind of instilled that in me. I'm never going to forget him, and he's always going to be my best friend. And to his family, like Christian and Brendan, Colin, you guys are my brothers, and to Jed and Darren and Kevin, I'm always going to love you guys, and I can't wait to just be to the things that we're going to do together, that we're going to build, that are going to be in memory of him. Because now that he is gone, it's like, it's us, and it's like all of us, all of his friends, all of his family, everybody that knew him. It's like, you have to channel that inner Justin Horn. You have to find that in you and leave that mark. And to Miriam and Maya, I can only say that we care about you so much, and all of us, all of Justin's brothers and his brotherhood that he built is always going to be there for you and for Maya. And if anything, like, we will be there to help teach what Justin taught us, and to show her that Justin was this amazing, amazing man that could do anything that he wanted to do, he would make happen. And I'm so thankful that everybody is here and that we could celebrate his life with you. Thank you, guys.
Kristen, before you leave, is there anything that you would like to mention about his Alaska adventures. Alaska. Not necessarily that he was a tour guide here. So
Justin was an amazing tour guide that worked for my parents. I met all these people in college, but he was the one person I was like, bro, you gotta come to Alaska. You're gonna love it. Old people, you bro. So he came up, and we get a lot of cruise ships into my hometown in Sitka, Alaska, and my parents run a tour company there, a bus tour company. And so Justin came up, and I mean, immediately he could pick up on all the info and the tours and stuff, but his charisma is just what propelled him to just being this amazing tour guide. I mean, so many times that like I had friends come visit and Justin's there, and I'm like, I could show you around, but just go with Justin. Justin's learned all the info, and he's way funnier than me. And just go with Justin on a tour and stuff. And, but he was such a great tour guide. Princess Cruises made him tour guide of the season one year. We went on so many adventures in Alaska together, where just the things we would do were so outside of the realm of, as a local boy that grew up there. I grew up in Sitka, Alaska, camping and doing all the outdoor stuff, but Justin always pushed me to do even crazier stuff. It was 8 p.m. at night, and it stays light really late there in the summertime. It's 8 p.m. at night, and he's like, we got to go hike up this mountain. I'm like, you're a crazy person. We're not doing that. He's like, we are doing that, and we're going to take with us these poker chips and a deck of cards. And we're going to go up there. We're playing the Harbor Mountain Poker Classic, which was a poker tournament that he invented 2 summers beforehand. And so here we are. It's like 8:30 at night. We're hiking up a mountain, just me and him. And I'm like, this is a bad idea, bro. We need to turn back. He's like, we're not turning back. We get to the top of the mountain. It's midnight. The trail is only lit by moonlight across this snowy peak. And there's this like cabin up there. And we had a couple of friends that had gone up camping. That's why we were going up there, was to meet them. They had no idea we were coming. And so here we are, like hiking across the ridge, singing the Alaska State Flag song. Just hoping that they would hear us coming and we'd keep bears away or something. But even in my hometown would make me go on adventures that I never thought I'd do. And even after the years after that, I had a friend, Warren, who was from New Zealand, and Warren came to visit me in Alaska. Warren, I was busy, I had to work. I'm like, just go downtown, go down to there's a cathedral right in the middle of downtown, go check it out, it's really cool, go in there. But so he wanted to know a little bit more about it, so he FaceTimed Justin, so Justin would tell him about everything. It's like 10 years after Justin been a guide there, but he still knew so much about the area, and he was always the best guide that anybody had. As much as his family is mine now, he is so much a part of my family. My parents wish they could be here. My dad is just looked at Justin as like another son. The way he had to scold Justin in the summertime as one of his employees it broke his heart to have to like yell at him, but it was like, God, he drove him crazy.
He deserved it.
Oh,
I promise you.
He 100% deserved it. Oh, he deserved it. But he just very much became a part of my own family, and he just had that ability to do that, where even now in my own hometown, I can walk around and there are people that know Justin, that knew Justin. And, after this has all happened, I have people come up to me that I'm like, how do you even know who that is? How do you know Justin? They're like, oh, you don't know. There's a story. And like many stories I have about Justin, I am not going to share them here. And we'll probably, most of them, take them to my grave. But he had so many adventures with people that I didn't even know. I remember the summers he was there, I was like, we're in the bar, and I'm like, bro, you know more people in my hometown than I know. And he's like, oh yeah, well, I made friends with this guy because he works out at the airport, and I know this guy because of here. And he just had this ability to make everyone around him his friend, and just dive into any community that he was a part of. And even in Sitka, Alaska, he is going to be remembered as just this amazing human being that touched a lot of lives. And I wish I could tell more stories up here, but it's not appropriate.
Save them for the back room.
Yeah, I'll save them back here.
So, like I was saying before, I just want to remind you guys, we do have some opportunity for you to share any of your memories. There's some printed out sheets, or if you'd like to record your stories in the back room, that would be fantastic. Food is going to be ready very shortly up from the back, so actually food is ready, and we will press play on Food Court the Musical. But before you go, I have to share a little bit. I'm standing up at the microphone, and I don't have many stories, but one of the stories I have is very fresh. So Trish asked me to host this and see, because it would be what would Justin do. Yeah. Well, I'm not like Justin. I don't have that amazing charisma and then those constant jokes. But one of the jokes I do have is just great, and it's a very good dad joke too. What did the fish say when it ran into the cement wall?
I don't know. What did the fish say when it ran into the cement wall?
It said, "Damn." So, with a little bit of levity, please enjoy some food and watch Food Court the Musical. Thank you very much for being here.